Ajibola Ero Phillips is the head of FX trading at FBN Quest Merchant Bank. Is live to us from FMDQ Exchange Place in downtown Lagos. Ajibola, it's good to see you in the new week.
Hi, boss, and good to be here.
Great. So
How are you?
let's start with the big elephant in the room. That's budget 2020. What's the outlook from you folks at FBN Quest?
Pretty interesting. We're like most banks will be looking at what's going to be happening in the debt sector of what CBN is going to be doing as regards for the debt issuance and to raise capital for the federal government. Also, what's going to be happening at the economy at the larger scale. We heard a lot of noise about how Nigeria is not heading as much. And so the deficit is going to grow, slightly larger. So those are some of the key points that we're beginning to, the folks at the banks are beginning to look at and pay attention to gradually.
Okay, but of course, the borrowings for 2020 budget is not coming in at least yet.
Yes, sure, certainly. So we're looking at what's going to happen, all of the things happening around oil. What's going to be taxation like. Now with the increase in the LDR, banks need to start lending a whole lot more. What's going to happen with all of that? Then, of course, banks are paying attention to, once lending kicks off, how to safeguard and, put perfect or good risk management policies in place so that some of those loans, we don't go back to some of the areas where AMCON had to, come in and bail out some of the banks.
Okay. Any idea what this is the fourth quarter, this is the Debt Management Office raising the curtain for the final 3 months of the year, first with the savings bond, then later with the monthly Naira paper auction. Talk to us about the savings bond. The papers are open, isn't it? 2 papers?
Yeah, so the savings bond is open, like you're aware, targeted at the lower end of the market, usually to raise for bonds below 50 million. For the bigger bond in itself, which comes later in the month, there's been in the bond market, specifically for the secondary market, there's been a little bit of apathy. Not much has been happening in the bond market, if I'm honest. We've seen a lot of apathy from investors, both local and offshore. And I think, or a lot of people think that's because the yield on the treasury bills, pretty much as of now, are way better than that. But if the CBN continues on the path where OMO yields continue to drop, then we might see, folks back in the bonds market, because that would give them commensurate yields that they would have easily gotten in the treasury bills market. But a lot has not been happening in the bond market in the last 3 weeks or there, even up to a month. It's been really, really quiet. Yields have barely moved in the last 1 month.
Yeah, because treasuries are shorter, the yields are higher. I'd rather buy that than even the Naira bond. But what about the savings bond? Notice about 11.4 or thereabout for the 2-year and about 12% on the 3-year paper, which the DMO is selling this week.
Yeah, so that's debuting this week. It's targeted towards the guys towards investors with lower amount. It's the federal government's way of targeting the lower end, try to recoup as much borrowing that they could get. You don't want the big corporates to, have all the papers and then they're, trying to target lower end of course. It's been quite a success, especially from in trying to attract that lower end of the market. There's been a big interest in it, and we don't see that stopping at this month's auction as well.
Is that what you're noticing at FBN Quest in terms of the savings bond?
Yeah, that's what we're noticing right now at FBN Quest.
So, what's the this week looking like so far? Yesterday we couldn't have this conversation, but it looks like the yields on short to midterm treasuries are hovering around 12. 2 weeks ago, we're doing around 13.5. Are we hitting some new lows here as far as the yield curve on treasury bills are concerned?
It appears so. It looks like the yields are beginning to drop. Just look at last week's HOMO auction. the amount that was sold was far less than what was expected. So markets is desperately waiting for the next OMO auction. There's about 347 billion maturing this week. We expect that CBN would again reissue OMO. But again, yields have been dropping. We went from, on the long end, we went from 13.5 to 13.48. And at last week's auction, we went to 13.4%. We still expect that because in the secondary market, that long end of the curve is trading around 12.5, 12.6. So if that will give some encouragement to CBN. Again, market is really liquid at this time. That's coming from the OMO maturity that we had last week and then a further maturity this week. So I expect that yields would drop slightly in that market, in the Treasury bills market.
What are we looking at? What are we looking at for Thursday, Ajibola, in terms of matured treasuries due for repayment?
So CBN will probably most likely reissue another OMO to mop up liquidity again. I expect that the yield for that will drop slightly. Last week was 13.4. I expect that it will come down again slightly, and that's just because there's so much liquidity in the market. Well, there would be a lot of liquidity in the market, so that should encourage the CBN to drop yields again this week.
So where is currency in this entire conversation with the external FX reserves now effectively below 42 billion US dollars?
We're seeing a bit of demand pressure in the dollar naira right now. It looks like yields rates have gone slightly above 362. There's been a bit of demand, and that's when CBN has to. That's the catch-22 for CBN. Drop yields at the risk of exchange rate further devaluing because of capital applied by some of these FPIs, or keep yields steady and with a firm eye on what you want to do with the LDR and encouraging banks to lend and dropping interest rate. So that's a catch-22 for them right now. For the dollar naira, it's been under a bit of pressure in the last 1 week. We've finally seen, for instance, the NAFEX closing well above 362 for 2 or 3 consecutive days, which hasn't happened in quite a long time because we've been hovering slightly below 362 for a while. So we're seeing that there's been a bit of pressure, and again, there's not much coming in terms of inflows from offshore, which has been the mainstay of that market. So we have to look at CBN, intervening in the IRN market at some point, and then continue with their interventions that they do on a weekly basis. We had the retail results last week showing CBN selling about 311 million. There's probably going to be another retail this week. There was a wholesale yesterday. So all of the things that CBN does in terms of intervening in the FX market would continue. But we're seeing that there's been a bit of demand pressure in the market generally.
Yeah, but overall, if you look at the basket of SSA currencies so far this year, it hasn't been a bad year so far for Nigerian local currency units, according to some reports out there, that at least the Naira has been one of the most resilient since 2019 started to date.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. It's been the most resilient amongst most of the currencies. Again, a lot of people try to point to Egypt and what Egypt is doing in terms of attracting flows and all, and the devaluation that has happened in there. But the CBN has done a very good job, and then the IRN market has been a masterstroke. It's kept that market. It's been the mainstay of the FX market. And again, all of the things that happened around our elections helped us at that time, and when oil prices increased at some point, helped us attract some of those flows. So that has really, really helped us, and it's it's given us enough buffer and shocks to be able to absorb some of the capital flights that we've seen in recent times since all of the things that are happening globally.
Ajibola Phillips from FBN Quest Merchant Bank, the head of FX trading. Thank you so much for bringing us some perspectives across the fixed income and currencies market. Do have a great day.
You too. Thanks, Wilson.
Thank you so much from FMDQ Exchange Place. And that's wrapping up for today. If you're interested in the stock market, the insurance stocks are the ones making very gentle gains early today. Investors are looking into these guys who are getting all their acts together for the deadline of June 2020 for a recapitalization of the industry. We'll talk about that in the days ahead. Have a great day, everyone. 1:30, don't miss our panel on Budget 2020 and President Buhari's presentation at 2 o'clock. We'll be here all over that till your early afternoon and later than that. Thank you so much. See you then. Have a great day.